take notes.
So we'll start. This is the June 3rd, 2026 Brentwood Municipal Budget Committee meeting. First item will be the pledge. Actually, I just wanted to make an announcement that Michelle has an excused absence for tonight. She could not make it. I didn't get a notice from any Bob or Gabby, so maybe they'll show up. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda. Next item on the agenda is the minutes from the May 11th, 2026, our regular meeting, that last meeting that we had. I sent that to everyone. Michelle had actually forwarded. Just need a motion and a second to accept, or if we want to make any changes to that. Oh, and Kat, because Michelle is not here, Kat said she would take notes and send them to her, but luckily the system is also working, so that should help Michelle put the minutes together for this meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes. Do we have enough people to approve them? I was like, can we do 3 or does it need to be 4?
Needs to be 4. So we might have to pass, let me see, let me text Bob. So just everybody knows, I'm texting Bob to see if he's coming to the meeting. Because if he's not, then we can just hold that off until the next time we meet. Because we do need, I believe, 4, because we're a board of 7. Maybe we just table it till after?
Yeah.
So we make a motion to table.
I will make a motion to table.
And I guess, again, I'm not sure on that. We really can't do anything, right? So, all right, we'll just go to the next item on the agenda.
Do we need a second?
I guess I can second it, but we can't really vote because we don't have.
We can all vote to table.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, yeah. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second to table. All in favor? Aye. Okay, good. So we will table it. Next item, update from school board. Dan?
Let's see. It was helpful looking at the minutes from last meeting because, yeah, it was a good refresher on where we left off. So as far as financials go, right now we're looking at projections for a healthy unreserved fund balance for this fiscal year, projecting right around $250,000, which is not changed from, I think, the last update I gave a month ago. So that's a good sign. And so just a reminder, that'll, fiscal year will wrap up at the end of this month, but usually it takes a month or two over the summer, for finance to finalize that. So as soon as we know the final numbers, I'll share that with this group. Good news coming out of spring state testing. This is all very preliminary because the state takes a while to release, more detailed results and validated results. But we heard from Principal Q in his last school board meeting on Monday that the preliminary New Hampshire state test results are showing increases in both math and ELA for SWAYC students. And you might remember from last year, SWAYC students were already doing exceptional relative to state averages and the state median. But it's gone up by 5% in ELA and 4% in math is what the preliminary numbers are showing. So in ELA, that's an increase from 74% proficient up to 79% proficient. And in math, that's an increase of 74 to 78% proficient. And just for reference, the state averages are more around 48, 50% for those subjects. So that's a really good sign in terms of state test results. And the other topic that I just was reminded of in the meeting minutes, last time we started to talk about the primary, or you could even say the sole cost driver from last year as far as the SWAYC budget goes was health insurance. And so this is being felt everywhere across New Hampshire, across New England, nationally. And so this has been top of mind for several towns in the SAU. And so I spoke with the head of HR, the head of finance at the SAU, and at the last joint board meeting. So the joint board meetings are where the 5 school board members from each of the towns within the SAU all get together a few times a year. And so it was actually at the last joint board meeting, the first hour of the agenda was a really comprehensive medical benefits discussion, talking about trends across New Hampshire, New England, across the country, and what that means for school districts. And so the unfortunate news is that, the numbers are off the charts. They're unprecedented as far as increase in costs, primarily being driven by pharmacy costs and sort of specialized drugs that are administered within hospitals during treatment. This whole presentation is available online, so I'm not going to try to butcher it or go through the whole presentation for this group here. But I do think it's worth checking out. It's less relevant for us in Brentwood because we actually just negotiated our teacher contract, which is firm from 2026 through 2030, and benefits are locked in through that contract. But it is helpful for us to continue to be monitoring these trends as we move ahead over the next few years. These trends are obviously much more meaningful for other towns that are literally about to or in the process of negotiating their teacher contracts as we speak. I guess good news coming out of that presentation is that the risk pools, out of the 3 risk pools that were available, Health Trust, School Care, and then New Hampshire Interlocal Trust, we're sort of in the best place with Health Trust out of those 3, because the last one, New Hampshire Interlocal Trust, is no longer. They don't exist anymore. School Care just had to issue a $30 million assessment, and so the average increases for school districts that are with School Care are much higher than those with Health Trust. Health Trust has had some challenges of their own, but they've been making progress to sort of remediate those. and they're building back their reserves, which is a good sign. So we're in a good spot with Health Trust. There are some options, within there for school districts as far as, plan options and things like that. So all of this is detailed in the presentation. So if you just go to like SAU 16 Joint Board, meeting minutes and all of that, it's listed as a link, as a resource. This document right here is publicly available. So definitely check that out. Again, not so relevant for us because we just negotiated our teacher contract, and that's good through 2030, but it was certainly informative in a lot of different ways. Last item that I saw we brought up in our last meeting, Jim, you had asked about the amicus brief. So there was a Dear Colleague letter that was written by the USDOE to school districts in the spring of last year, basically threatening to take away federal funding for any school districts that don't sign on to this letter, agreeing that their teachers will not. There was a vague definition around the topics that they couldn't teach. And so it was putting the teachers in a really tough spot because it was written in such a vague way and it was a violation of First Amendment rights. And so it's since been challenged in court. New Hampshire modeled a piece of legislation after this, which has also been challenged in court. But it's coming back up again. So the ACLU, presented an opportunity for school districts to join an amicus brief. And so we had discussed that as a board. At the time that we last met as a budget committee, there was a question of, do we have to pay legal to, sign on to this amicus brief without actually knowing the contents of what the brief would entail? And so what we did is we held a special meeting after our last budget committee meeting, at which time we had a much better idea of what would be in the letter, and even like a draft of the notes and points that would be in the letter. And so we got all that without signing on, having to pay legal anything. And so after seeing the notes, we had a unanimous, there was not a single Swayze school board member who voted no to not sign on to the amicus brief. And so we signed on, and good news too is all or most or all of the other towns in the SAU signed on as well. So the cost for Brentwood was lower because it was sort of a shared initiative in that way. And I think that's the last note that I had, unless there's any questions from the group.
Do we know what the cost is exactly, or is it still kind of?
So
Early.
if we went on solo, it would have been somewhere between $5,000 to $8,000. But since it was shared across like 5-ish towns, it was, maybe $1,000, $2,000, something like that.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Just the only question I had is, did the solar thing come up? I wasn't at the board meeting.
Yeah, so good news is
I wanted to make sure
we got some
I
insider.
heard it was good news.
So we've been anticipating it's like a return. It's not a tax credit because we're a public institution, but it's something like that. And it's significant. It's like $170,000 or something thereabouts for the solar that we installed on the roof of the school. We were getting no response from the IRS for a long time, but the chair of the Swayze School Board had a connection through Maggie Hassan's office and was able to work our way through there to actually get in contact with someone who could do something about this. And so this person has told us that they're going to correct our account, or they told Molly this, our director of finance with the SAU, who's been really persistently following up. They told Molly that they're going to correct our account, and the deadline that they've given them is June 12th. So hopefully over the summer we get a really positive update on this one, because it's been really frustrating for a lot of people I know.
It's the IRS that she's dealing with, that the school is dealing with, the SAU, right?
Yeah, but now we're no longer even attempting to deal with them because we have this other person.
I was going to say, yeah. I've heard other people have success doing the same thing, going through Hassan's office, that you fill out a form. My wife actually did it. I don't remember exactly what it was about.
Yeah.
They were really helpful, and it's amazing how you can get action or somebody to react to something when you get somebody like that pushing. But
all about who you know, I guess.
Absolutely. Anyways, I want to make sure that because Laura told me that had come up, and I'm like, oh, that was good news.
And the good news is that if it actually comes through, it's not too late for us to build it into this year's
Right,
fiscal
right.
cycle, and it would be returned directly to
Right,
taxpayers. So
right.
that would be big.
Yeah, exactly.
And so fingers crossed,
Okay.
we'll see.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Dan. Bob's not here, so we won't have a select board update. Yep. Sure, yeah.
Ched Miller, Dudley Road. How much federal funds do we get? You said they would be at risk if we didn't sign some letter.
Yeah, it's in the single digits. I can't give you an exact number, but I seem to remember somewhere we had this conversation last year, like in the spring of 2025, because some people were feeling so strongly about this that they were even wondering if we should draft two budgets, like one that had federal funding included and one that didn't. We didn't actually end up doing that.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't need to, thankfully. But my memories wants to say like somewhere around like 6 to 8% of the overall budget or something like that was tied in with federal funds. But
And that's including the co-op budget as well as the Swayze budget?
no, you're saying no, Letty? Right.
No, yeah, we would only be talking Swayze.
Okay, no, I was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
curious what
Yeah.
number we're talking about. So
No,
8% of the, what was it? I forget how many million.
I don't know if I have that.
7. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a decent number.
Yeah. It's definitely, other school districts that are really reliant on free and reduced lunch and things like that. It's obviously a much bigger portion, but yeah.
If I find it, I think they actually sent it to me, Jed. I'll find it, I'll send it to you, the exact number, if you want it. Thank you. Next, we don't have any budgets to review. I know the treasurer is here, so I guess we'll have an impact fee update. I got a report today. I sent it to each of you. So tried to post it online.
Do you want paper copies of what was already emailed this afternoon? It's a little larger and potentially easier to look at.
If you have
Actually, I will take one. So
Yeah,
that way
if
I
you
can
have
look
it.
at it while also
Sure.
and not
I'll
having
try to
to
put it up on the screen at
put
the
too many
same
things on
time.
my screen. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Let's see if I can get it up on the screen.
Oh, ooh. Long paper.
Those were the two tabs that we wanted you to focus on. We don't have a printer large enough to print documents this big. So I can give you a taped together version if you want finer details that are gonna explain those numbers. That is a working document. Still going through some of the paperwork for 2025. But the smaller single page Julie has compiled, you'll see at the top the 2022 impact fees that were collected, broken down by each section that they cover. So you've got Swayze School, the Cooperative Middle School and High School, Police Department, Town Office Building, Recreation, Library, and the Fire Department. That first grid is 2022 collected and what's been dispersed during 2023, 2024, and 2025. If there is a negative figure in a column, that is then brought back down into the second graph, which is your 2023 collected. Same idea that in the bottom of that particular graph, if you've got a negative figure, it's brought down into the 2024 collected. The data for 2025 has not been put on this chart yet. If there is a green figure in any of the columns, that means that there are funds still there available for disbursement. Yeah, any questions looking at that? I know you haven't had a lot of time to review it.
So does this assume like that in 2022, the balances were zero across all of this? Like, I guess I don't, like, because it shows in other words, under Swayze, 2022 collected 36,300.
Mm-hmm.
Disbursements, $37,041.62. Well, so you, in other words, was there funds already, were there funds in the account from prior to 2022, or did it really go negative? I guess I don't know, because, I mean, impact fees go way back, right?
Sure, sure. And let me touch base with Julie
Okay.
on that, and,
All right.
and I can get your response.
Okay.
And then the 2-page document, it's a bit larger. That's gonna give you the 2025 detail of amounts that were deposited, any withdrawals made, and the interest income posted to each account.
Why are the September numbers not captured in the total at the bottom? Was that just like an error on the form, or?
That again, unfortunately, I'm here for Julie, and so I can take that question back to her as well.
Okay. I assume it was just like a formula issue with the table, but.
Right? No, I'm glad that you
But
caught
it's
that.
extremely consistent.
Yes.
And I'm just looking at the big one that goes across, and
Yes.
because I believe that when you look at an aging report for impact fees, each impact fee itself is aged, and that it needs to be tracked at the impact fee level. So like on this sheet, so River Run 217-048-019, we collected 3618 on 9/16/25. And so somewhere that amount has to be shown for each of the buckets, whether it's school, police, whatever, right? So you'd go back in history, every single impact fee, and you're showing how much was collected for each of the buckets, the columns, police, fire, schools, right? And then during the year, if fire spends part of their money, you go back to the top, the oldest, because you want to spend the oldest impact fee.
Right.
So if they spent $40,000, you would go back in history to where the last non-cleared impact fee was, right? And then you start going down until you hit $40,000. So it'll go red, because you're going to use up the money. And then you'll reach a point where maybe you've collected 10,000, but you're only expending 2,000 of that. So you have 8,000 remaining of that one impact fee, right? This is, I thought how the law, how you do aging on impact fees, it's at an impact fee level. And then you basically store, historically, you drop them off after a certain amount of time. Like if once they've been totally expended, you keep them there for a year or two, and then you can just drop it off the public chart. But I thought the report that we have to spend, and again, I'll follow up with you and Julie on this more. I thought part of what you had to show was the aging report that showed if there was any impact fees that had been aged or were approaching age, like that, where you'd have to, because if you don't expend in 6 years, you have to give it back.
Correct.
But anyways, and maybe it's here and I just don't see it. But I know that, like, it looks like when you say, oh, well, if it's all being summed together, and if you go back, whatever, 6 years, and we've spent everything, there's nothing left, I guess you could balances, and I think there must have been balances in these before 2022. So that would be my only questions, but maybe I'll just follow up with Julie.
I was going to say, as far as the aging goes, there's been no conversation between Julie and I
Okay.
about that. I know that the format that you're receiving, this larger 3-page document, is a preferred layout that was asked of us from the town's auditors.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then from a detailed report like this, you could create what you put into the town report, what the law says that the people see, because you just have to list, well, how much dollars are we having to refund that year? Well, none, or how many, because none of them have overaged. You don't have to get into all the details, but this is absolutely, I would think, I've seen, because I saw other towns that had reports online. Like,
Okay.
they had their details online, and it was something like this. And at the time, I had shared it with the treasurer and had a template. But again, I understand that, like, obviously this is really difficult creating the first one because we had a gap in time where it kind of wasn't being done, right? So,
Right.
and I really appreciate, I said it last night, like I really appreciate the efforts that both you and the town administrator are putting into this, because it's really difficult going back and getting this data from when some of the people maybe aren't here. And and then once we get it filled out,
Sure.
then I think that's a whole other issue that the select board, we talked about this, is that, and I talked to the town administrator, there just needs to be a process so that everybody who's involved, because that was the other thing, the email that we got from the former treasurer, there seemed to be some confusion over who really owned things, and I'm like, okay, well, this is not our purview, but like, it just made me feel like, oh, like, that's not a good thing if people don't know who's doing what. And
Sure.
as long as we have this thing filled out and it's done, then we just have a process of who does each piece, like whether it's what piece the planning board owns, what piece the building inspector owns, piece you own, I don't know, the town administrator, whoever, how it works. But that way, no matter who the person is that's here, I was a process engineer, as you can, so it's just like, but again, what I'll do is I'll follow up with the town administrator, maybe set up a meeting where we can just review this together, and someone maybe from the select board, if they want to be there, just to kind of get it squared away once and for all. But I really appreciate the work. I mean, it's a lot of effort. I said it last night, and I'll say it again. I really appreciate it, and it looks like it's really getting close. It definitely is close, and this long form is definitely what I remember the night when they said that the auditors gave you a template. I was hoping it would be something like this, and I think they said it's even color coded. It'll automatically change colors as the aging starts to happen, which is kind of neat. So,
Yeah. And I can at least say that any concern that you have about any other impact fees that, may be there prior to this line for the amounts collected in 2022, to the best of my knowledge so far, if there is anything, it would be minimal. The accounts that I have in my control that I'm supposed to oversee there are very few, and the balances are not anything significant.
That's-
So,
yeah, good.
so, you know, and,
Which
you know,
that's a good thing, because then
absolutely.
reconciling it and getting the baseline done is much easier.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and not having to refund large
Absolutely,
amounts
absolutely.
to the owners,
Absolutely.
and,
And
you know,
honestly, that was the goal all along, was just to know how much do we have in these accounts, because it was definitely last October when I saw the report. It kind of wasn't clear to me, and that kind of drove me down the path of all of a sudden seeing in the statute that said this report was supposed to have been presented, and I asked for it and no one had it. So that kind of just made this whole
Right.
thing like barrel over itself. Like,
no, absolutely. And, you know, as my position is new to me, and I'm learning as I go, and uncovering, you know, more documentation as I go along. And, you know, it's well known by all the residents that we've had issues, you know, at the towns and in various positions. And so, I believe that a lot of staff has inherited, you know, messes that they themselves did not create. And so I'm picking up there, and I will urge all of you, just like I will urge any department that needs to work with me, to just have patience. Will certainly deliver what it is that you're looking for, as long as you can be patient in the fact that there's a lot of work to be done.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I mean, there's a lot here, and I really appreciate it. I think it's getting close, and again,
Yeah.
thank you for all you've done in the short time you've
Absolutely.
been here, Linda. Really appreciate it.
No problem at
Any
all.
other questions from the board? I'll just ask public. Letty, question, Ched, anything? Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have this. Thank you. Okay. All right, next is, I'm gonna go over the default budget in SB2. We talked about this last time. Yeah, put that up on the screen. So we talked last time about SB2 and how the tax cap works with SB2. Obviously, as part of now that we are voting on the actual budget for the town, there needs to be a mechanism whereby if the voters, the legislative body now are voters at the ballot, if they vote down the operating budget, and there needs to be a backup plan. So that's what the default budget is, and why we don't have it in town meeting, because, well, at town meeting, the deliberative session and the vote is all at the same time. And in this case, if the ballot fails, you have a default budget. The law, RSA 4013, paragraph 9B, defines the default budget. And this shows the exact language. And it's important to have the exact language because it has been changed. I think the last time this was changed in 2018 or 19, but the default budget as used in this subdivision means the amount of the same appropriations as contained in the operating budget authorized for the previous year. So you basically take the operating budget that was approved in the previous year, reduced and increased as the case may be by debt service. So any sort of changes in principal and interest payments on the debt service line, that gets put in there. Contracts, and I'm going to get back to the word contract because they have contracts specifically defined, and other obligations previously incurred or mandated by law, and then reduced by one-time expenditures contained in the operating budget. So you go through, and I actually have an example of a default budget at the end. You can see this. You have to go through each line and make sure that if there was if it was a one-time expenditure that gets reduced, then and by salaries and benefits of positions that have been eliminated in the proposed budget. So if there's a position that has been eliminated in the budget, you reduce the salary and benefits. If there was a position that was budgeted but not filled, it stays in. That does not get reduced. It's only if a position had been eliminated in the previous budget that gets pulled out. For the purpose of the paragraph, one-time expenditures shall be appropriations not likely to recur in the succeeding budget, and eliminated positions shall not include vacant positions under recruitment or positions redefined in the proposed operating budget. Again, so that's just saying that if you just haven't hired somebody, that doesn't get taken out. That stays in. The only thing that gets taken out is if you've had a reduction. You've actually eliminated a position. And then it says that the governing body determines the default budget unless the provisions of RSA 4014B are adopted, that has not been adopted in Brentwood. So the select board currently owns putting together the default budget. If the town had voted 4014B, then the budget committee would own it. But as of today, the select board owns it. But again, I'll mention this, there is legislation right now to maybe change that. In calculating the default budget amount, the governing body shall follow the statutory formula, which may result in either a higher or lower amount than the one proposed in the operating budget. So the default budget can be higher than the proposed, just because, well, the default budget, there's rules that you have to follow, and the proposed budget can be higher or lower depending on what the select board and budget committee propose. So this is the actual language that defines default budget. So I'll just pick apart some of these pieces. So essentially, and this is right from the NHMA Basic Law of Budgeting 2024 edition, the default budget freezes the budget at the previous year's level, except for amounts which the town is legally obligated to pay or which were one-time expenses. And then it talks about in 2018, there were amendments made to the law that changed the requirements on the default budget. So the language that I read you is the current law, but this is just talking about that they added language that now not only must last year's budget be reduced by one-time expenditures, it must also be reduced by salary and benefits of positions that have been eliminated in the proposed budget. But again, it's only positions that have been eliminated, not if they have not been filled. And the amendment further clarifies that eliminated positions shall not include vacant positions under recruitment or positions redefined in the proposed operating budget. So there's a clarification on whether it has to be a position that's eliminated, not just that, oh, we don't have anybody there right now, so we cut that out. That doesn't get cut. In calculating the default budget amount, the governing body shall follow the statutory formula, which may result in a higher or lower amount than the proposed operating budget. Now, here's the part. The contracts per RSA 4013-9 paragraph C means contracts, and this language was changed. It now states that it's contracts previously approved in the amount so approved by the legislative body in either the operating budget authorized for the previous year or in a separate warrant article for the previous year. So I put these words in bold. They weren't obviously in the NHMA book, but I put it in bold because contracts, the language was changed to say previously approved in the amount approved by the legislative body, not by the select board or the budget committee. It's by the legislative body. So and this is again from NHMA, the Superior Court found that the annual salary increases included in an employment contract entered into between a town employee and the select board could not be included in future year default budgets. The judge determined that because the appropriation in the contract were not previously approved by voters, those amounts did not constitute, quote, contracts previously incurred by law. So if hypothetically you have an employee who just was hired and the select board said, oh yeah, well you get 2 raises this year or something like that, This is not in the default budget. That raise will not be in the default budget. It'll be in the proposed budget, but it's not in the default budget because it was not, unless that position, unless that contract was approved like on a warrant by the legislative body, which is completely different than like a collective bargaining agreement, right? That's approved by legislative body. So this contract thing is an interesting one because they specifically made it for the legislative body, not for the governing body. So employee, again, this is all from the NHMA book. Employee raises should not be included in the default budget unless they are required by a legally binding and previously ratified contract obligating the municipality to fill particular positions or employ particular people at certain wages. While the per unit costs for certain commodities may increase from one year to the next, such as cost per kilowatt hour of electricity or the cost per ton of asphalt, the default budget amount includes the quote amount of money appropriated for the purpose from the previous year, not the amount that will be required for the same number of units in the coming year. So in our case, on the salt line in our budget, Wayne said, oh, I need 30 tons. So we gave him, I don't know, whatever the number was this year, $89,000 or something. When we go next year, he doesn't go, oh, the default budget is 30 tons of salt, but the price went up so much, blah, blah, blah. So this year, you get whatever the amount was on that line. So it limits you to the amount that was appropriated in the previous year's budget. And again, I'll have an example from, I think, the town of Fremont that kind of shows you how this works. The default budget is limited not only to the same amount of the appropriation in the previous year's operating budget, but also to those purposes for which the appropriations were made in the previous year's operating budget. And they give this example. They say if in the previous year's operating budget had no appropriation for an account, the DRA account 4152, revaluation of property, well, you can't add a line in the next year's default budget for revaluation of property. So if the line didn't exist in the previous year's budget, you can't create a new line in the default budget. Now, the budget disclosure, this is in RSA 4013-11A. The default budget shall be disclosed and presented for questionings and discussion at the first budget hearing. So this year, when we have our budget hearing, we will have to go over the default budget in addition to the proposed budget. The governing body, unless the provisions of 40B are adopted, which we don't have, shall complete a default budget form, the MSDTB, created by DRA to demonstrate how the default budget amount was calculated. And I have an example of that. So right now, again, that would be something that the select board did. But again, whether and I have the legislation after this that I'll show you, but regardless of whether it would be the select board or the budget committee coming up with this, I gotta believe this, we worked really well with them last year on putting the budget together. I think that there'd be a joint effort to determine the individual lines to hand to the town administrator who will input it into, because the form that you input, it's not a piece of paper. The MSDTB form, I can't give you a hard copy and show you what it looks like because it's only in the portal. I tried to get a blank copy, but DRA basically said, yeah, we don't have blank copies, just you can do a 91A and get one from another town or something, but Fremont had theirs online, so I snagged that one and I'll show it to you. But and what the law says is that the line item details for changes under subparagraph 2 below shall be available for inspection by voters. The form and associated calculations shall at minimum include the following. So it just has all the appropriations contained in the previous year's operating budget. And then for each line, it shows whether it's reduced or increased in the default. And then for each one of those ones where there's a change, you put there's at the bottom of the sheet, you put like the account code and say why it's going up or why it's going down. One-time expenditures is defined under subparagraph 11B, and reductions for eliminated positions or benefit expenditures is defined under the previous subparagraphs. So it basically, what you have to do is go through each line of the budget at the account level, like we did. We go through them, and you enter in a default budget. So we'll have our proposed budget, and then you have to calculate what the default budget is for each one of those lines. And anywhere where the line changes from the previous year, at the bottom, you have to put a note for that account why it's not the exact same as last year, whether it's higher or lower. And again, I have down at the bottom, this is right from the a web link where they have this. And then the amount shall not be amended by the legislative body. So once this number is set, the legislative body can't change it. However, the amount may be adjusted by the governing body acting on relevant new information at any time before ballots are printed, provided the governing body completes an amended default budget form. So there's just a clause in there that says if, okay, but you have your public hearing and then you find out something changed or something was done wrong, you can change the default budget disclosure up until the time the ballots are printed. And then finally, this is the wording that you have to use now when we come up with when we have the warrant for the operating budget. It just says, shall the town of Brentwood raise and appropriate an operating budget, not including appropriations, da-da-da. So you'll put in the total for your proposed budget, and then it says, should the article be defeated, the default budget shall be, and you put in the value which aligns to this MSDTB form that we will have filled out and signed and given to DRA. So this will be the actual, now that we're in SB2, this will be the language that will show up on the ballot for the operating budget. Finally, there is legislation right now at the State House, HB 1575. This bill makes the Budget Committee responsible for the determination of the default budget in any local political subdivision which has adopted the official ballot referenda form of meeting, which is SB2, and then also has adopted the Municipal Budget Committee pursuant to RSA 3214. So Brentwood falls into this category. We are an SB2 town. We also have adopted a Municipal Budget Committee. Now, the bill has, if you look at it, it does show that it has passed the House, and I think someone told me it passed the Senate. I don't know. So to me, if it gets signed into law, we become the ones who are responsible for signing the actual form. When the form prints out, when Julie would print out the default budget, the Budget Committee will sign it. If this doesn't pass, the Select Board signs it. But like I said, I can see this not making much of a difference in Brentwood. I think we have a really good relationship. We did a really good job with the Select Board last year, and I think it would be the same way this year. Honestly, at this point, I have more slides that just show the highlights of this, but a lot of this is kind of redundant, and I don't know, again, how much you folks want to ask questions about this or want to go further into detail, but these were just some of the highlights that are in a handout that NHMA had. It ties back into the book, but it just had some more specific examples, but it's kind of redundant to what I already had presented. I mean, there's only a couple of slides, but there really wasn't. I mean, it's talking about, like, we had already talked about, this is talking about electricity. I mean, it doesn't matter if the electric rates go up. If you have a line for electric at the rec or something, whatever, it's whatever the previous year's amount was. You can't say, well, the electric rates went up or down, so it changes. It doesn't work that way. Anything here? And again, it's to be honest with you, I believe the contracts ones is the one where it's going to be the most confusing. I mean, I just will say this on the Casella trash. The Casella trash contract was signed by the Select Board. It never went to a warrant. The legislative body did not sign that contract. It has whatever it is, 5% increase per year. Honestly, I don't know the answer. I'm not a lawyer. I would have to think that we have to check with the lawyer, because
Because then the legislative body did vote on the manual collect, so like,
Well, we voted on a, we, no,
situation.
but see, the problem is we voted on a line in a budget
Oh.
for a specific amount.
Letty has
Yeah,
thoughts and or info.
Letty Bedard, Middle Road, speaking as a private citizen, there are school districts that have, and I'm thinking school because I was trying to think of other contracts. There are school districts that are SB2. A lot of times their bus contracts have escalators built in, so I would be curious to see how those are handled. Because wouldn't that be a similar situation? Because the bus contracts don't go to
See,
voters.
yeah, and see, like, I don't know. And I didn't know if it's because, well, if you're an SB2 town and you're doing a contract, you go, oh, we better put this as a separate warrant that gets voted so that in the future on default budgets that things kick in. I don't know the answer, Letty. I think that'll just be something that we have to go, in my opinion, we could probably ask NHMA, but I would just have our attorney check this because.
I guess having some guidance about which things are default, like which, because based on what you're saying, based on what the RSA says, it sounds like
I'm
most
gonna
of
tell
our
you,
contracts
if
are
you,
gonna
if
fall
you
into
look
this
at
category.
this new legislation that's up, when they had their hearings, the comments that people make that were there, there's a lot of comments about contracts that municipalities are putting in the DT form at the bottom, an increase that says contractual, contractual. And people are saying it's not contractual per the law because back to what the law, again, the wording. Yeah, because the law was changed to say contracts previously approved by the legislative body. And the legislative body is not this group or
Do you wanna-
the governing body.
Bob just walked in at the best time, so I'm gonna let him. Basically, it sounds like based on this, the trash contract that we have doesn't count as a pre-existing
Oh,
contractual obligation.
But see, I just want to make sure I'm clear. I am not saying that.
No,
I said I
based
would
on-
have to
Yeah,
go to
like,
the
we're-
attorney to
we're not
ask.
sure that
I
that
don't
would-
know.
It's possible.
And from what I've read, this is a common question
It's
that comes
possible
up.
that that would not be included in a default budget situation.
And
So what Jim essentially, presented is that the cost, like if there's a change in commodity, right, and salt was a good example, then the default budget cannot include the tons, it has to include the amount. So the question that came up with regards to contracts is whether the contracts such as trash,
I'm almost
the
wondering if,
increases would be included or not.
fact that the
because it
voters,
wasn't approved by the
like,
legislative body.
we as the legislative
That's
body
what
have
we're
already
discussing,
voted
yeah.
to approve
Right, because
one
they didn't
amount
vote,
from
like,
that
the teacher's
contract, like the
contracts is
Casella
voted on, like,
contract.
a 3-year.
Right.
Is
But
that
if-
like a tacit
if that was
consent to the
built into a
whole
contract
contract?
And the price changes every year, it
Whereas
has to be voted on every year.
electricity isn't really a contract, it's just a thing that kind of fluctuates with time. And the hiring contract thing, to me, I'm reading that more as like a new hire. So I think it was like the building inspector, somebody did have raises built into their contract. And obviously that budget passed and it's not a problem. But that,
And like I said, this is right from the
Like-
NHMA.
yeah,
book.
but that contract was
spec-
new that year, so like voters wouldn't have approved it in a previous year. So that's what, it's, not that it's vague, but it's just like what does it being approved by the legislative body actually mean? And maybe you have light to shed.
To me, it seems has a little bit ambiguity, so,
I know this.
and I guess
legislate-
I guess my question would be, and this is maybe where I don't want to run it by Paul since
Yeah,
he's an attorney.
And we have, we have plenty of time to
Yeah,
do this. I'm
To
just
run it
like,
by,
And
I'm
these
just-
are hypotheticals.
absolute, no.
This may never
Right.
come up.
I think
in
these
real
would be
life.
things that we need to ask the
or
attorney.
even like Laura, like what Letty was saying about the trash. If we
There's a lot
voted
of
on it.
them. There's
Yeah,
a lot of them. There's a lot of things that, like I said, in employment contracts, the court said, if you don't have it signed by the legislative body, then it doesn't go into, you don't increase the salary. That was right. This is right out of the book because the judge said contracts previously have to be approved by the legislative body, the voters, not by the governing body.
So what if the contract was signed with like a 3-year or even 10-year commitment? And
Well-
people voted to pass that, would that be considered that they accepted all 3 or 10
Yes,
years?
yes, if
front
a
of the
warrant,
legislative
yeah, if the
bodies
warrant was
regardless.
written that way, absolutely. But I've not been involved that long. I haven't seen a warrant that's come before us that has said anything like,
But a lot of times they're built into the whole general budget.
right, right. So anyways, I don't, and
Right,
I
because
don't,
it's
I didn't
built
mean to
into
like
the
take us
entire
down
budget.
like kind of
Yeah,
like,
you could make that argument for sure.
right.
Because then they ratified, did they ratify it by voting for the entire budget, knowing that those contracts were part of?
Right.
Like if we sign an electrical agreement for solar, for example, when we signed that agreement for the solar, it was a 7-year commitment.
If you have a legal, I thought that was somewhere, if you have a legal obligation to pay, that is included. The increase is included in the default budget.
Well, then wouldn't that make that contract legally
No,
binding?
I don't know. I don't think, again, I'm not an expert here. I do just know that in New Hampshire, legislative bodies from one year to the other, they are definitely restricted to appropriations for that 1 year that they're voting. Whenever you are going to approve expenditures in future years, it usually has special conditions. It takes supermajority, it takes language. There's things that need to be done, like on a CRF. There's reasons for it. The basic laws of budgeting say that these legislative body can only act on the year, that 1 year. It's specifically done that way in the state of New Hampshire. And you can do appropriations for 1 year, and then it gets spent or it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it goes in, you can't
Goes
just
back
carry
in,
it, right?
right.
This is how it works. So, I'll be honest with you, these were the areas that when I went through this, I really don't know. And I just said, well, when we get to it, will have to ask.
Like,
go to
I know
go
we
to
just
attorney.
had, like, every July 1st, for example, the regional refuge contract that basically was signed for 5 years and 25 and can be extended up to 2035 when the dump site in Rochester is completely full. There's an escalation in there, 4% every year is built into that. How's that work?
I don't know. I've said, when you guys were voting, the select board voted, you sit down with the fire chief or the police chief and you say, hey, we have this scale thing or whatever, and this is how we're going to do it. All it is a guideline for your proposed budget. You can't guarantee. It's just, there's no
taxpayers
offense,
can vote no,
nothing
and
against
there'd be
the
no raise.
authority of the select board or budget committee. It's
Okay.
just how the law is. You can't sit there and tell a guy, you're getting a raise this year, you're going to get this much next month. And you can do it in 1 year if you have the appropriation for it. You can. The select board can absolutely move monies within the year as long as you have the money. But what I'm talking about is for the next year, whatever's on that line for salary and wages is what's going to go into the default budget. And if you say, well, I promised the guy he was going to get a 5% raise.
But then people don't vote for it, then you're stuck.
No, what I'm saying is when we fill out, and I'll show you, I think the best thing to do, I'll just show you a default budget form. And then we can go back if people have questions. But I have. So this is actually from Fremont. This was the MSDTP form for last year, which interestingly enough, they voted no on their budget. So this is
Stuck.
This is the default budget, right? So you can see it's certified by the budget committee, the select board. And basically it's the classic, the form that we sign now, right? The budget, each one of the accounts, the prior year adopted budget, and then you see this column that says reduction or increase, right? And then or a one-time appropriation, and the number is, you either do the adding and subtracting and you come up with the default budget. So every line, like this 4140, where it says an increase of $8,451. If you go down to the bottom, every single line that
Is
has a
zero.
change, and notice how there's a lot of zeros, right? There's a lot of zeros. But any line that is not a zero, 4140, election mandate, whatever that means. You have to document the explanation to
Oh,
DRA.
coincidentally, they have waste management contract included.
Oh.
Now, but what I don't know is, what did Fremont put a warrant that said, we are signing a 5-year deal with Waste Management, blah, 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 right? Like, I really don't know. When we did it, we didn't do it that way. Yeah, so again, I don't know the answer. I don't claim to know. I'm just saying, like,
Well, and I know the election mandates, I think this year, when we did our budget, there's gonna be an extra election. So that's probably why they had,
I think that's what it is, like, because,
you're required
yeah,
by law.
you had 2 elections, now we're required to have 3 or 4 or something,
Right, right,
right?
right. So
So
they add an extra, so that would make
that
sense.
goes in. By law, we have to pay more for elections, right? Now, notice how it says electric contract. I don't know. I don't,
But does it say reasons?
No.
Does it detail those reasons out?
no,
That's it.
yeah.
Is this something that we could contact someone
Yeah,
in Fremont
I
to
think-
figure out,
oh.
did the voters actually
Oh,
vote for
for
this,
sure.
or?
No, I honestly, I think but between NHMA and our attorney, that's what we have an attorney for,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
And I just think if there's a question about it, you just go to the
just reach out
attorney
to
and make sure we do it right, especially the first time. Then once we kind of go through this and we learn,
Well, it's interesting, so
so you look.
the salaries look like they're all zero.
Right.
Zero increases, so they kept them like,
Well, because they have to, unless you have a collective bargaining agreement, which.
like teachers and stuff like
Right.
that.
If there's a collective bargaining agreement, that's automatic, that goes in, because guess what? Their collective bargaining agreement, the legislative body approves it.
Right.
I mean, it goes,
For a 4-year period.
right, it's not just the school board or budget committee that approves that. We just recommend or not recommend, and then the legislative body does it. So, and I didn't want to, but I will say, out of all of the information on the default budget, that was the one area that I was most like, I don't understand this one clearly, how it works. And we will definitely probably have to seek out our legal person.
Well, even
to
just
check
getting
with it.
legal advice to help inform how we write future contracts could be beneficial
Yes.
itself. You know?
Yes.
It's
Like, and that's the
interesting,
thing,
even
I
the-
thought the same thing, like, well, once you're SB2, it's like, you know now, right?
Right.
Well, before it never mattered because it didn't matter because we propose a budget, and then when the people, they want to amend it up or down, well, then you have to go back and you can move things around. But this is really like, you have to come up ahead of time with a legal number, default budget, and you have to
Interesting
defend
me,
it.
Even all the trust funds are all zero, huh?
Well, these are all, yeah. And like, it's interesting on the debt services. So, I mean, it must be that with theirs, they didn't have any increases on principal and interest payments, right? Because that absolutely is allowed. So if you have an increase in principal and interest or something, that is allowed under law.
Like for
That-
bonds and stuff like
Yes,
that, right?
yeah, because those are legal obligations that you have to pay, yep. And again, when you do a bond, the voters vote it. It's voted by the legislative body for a bond.
So like our conservation bonds and
Yeah.
stuff that was already voted on.
Yeah, they gave approval for all of the expenditures for that. Let's see there's another one that had. Anyways, 4194, general government buildings. Like, see, they have this $2,900. So if you go down, 4194, it says electric contract. Again, I don't know. Like, it could be if maybe it was if the contract was signed beforehand. I really don't know. And I'm not going to try to guess. It's just one of those ones that why I put the definition of contract was definitely something that in the NHMA book they harped on. And if you look at the comments on that law, that the HB 1575, a lot of the comments people were making had to do with contracts. That some of the municipalities may be being generous on using the word contract.
Which opens you up to
Yeah.
litigation and stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Let me go back to.
So I need legal clarification.
So that's the default budget. I mean, at this point, if there's questions, I could try to answer the best I can, or I think we just would, like I said,
I'll
this
punt
whole,
it
when we
to
go to put it
Paul
together,
and Laura from Town Council.
and we have time to do this, Bob. I mean, this isn't until,
Right,
later in the
fall.
fall.
Yeah.
It's just, this was just a heads up of how does it work? And if we get enough heads up on it, we will definitely know in time to be able to ask the questions. We could probably ask now if we wanted to, because there's definitely contracts that we have.
And I'm sure there's precedent that they can
Yes.
look at, because we're not the
Yes.
first one going to
Correct,
this SB2.
correct.
We're kind of just late to the party.
It is what it is.
Victim of circumstance. That's how it works.
Letty, you have a question or
Yeah.
a comment?
No, question.
Sure.
I didn't see anything that said that once the amount of the default budget is set through this process, if the operating budget failed and we were in default budget situation, the select board at that point could decide to move money around.
Yes, that's, the select board always can do that. Select
know,
board can move
I-
money.
I feel like I've seen, Kingston is the one that I thought of recently, and actually Fremont too, where they're like, okay, now that we know how many dollars we have, we thought, maybe when you thought you were getting your operating budget as proposed, you were gonna put money here, but now that we didn't get that, we're gonna tighten it
Yes.
up and spend it somewhere else. So that can still happen.
That absolutely can happen, because by
Could
law.
you still do raises?
What's that?
Can you still do
Well,
raises?
the
You
select
would just
board.
have to
the
make
s-
reductions
the
elsewhere
select
to balance
right.
it out.
This came up last night at your meeting when they talked about Fremont, right?
Who voted no for the ambulance
Right.
service for
$70,000 was in the operating budget for this contract with
Raymond,
an
yeah.
ambulance vendor. The operating budget failed. The default budget had whatever the $13,000 in it for ambulance. So you have a deficit, right? You have a commitment of 70. You've only had 13,000. You have to get, the select board has to get it somewhere else. And they, by law, you can definitely do that. That has nothing to do with default budget or SB2. But it's what you said. You got to take it somewhere else.
But because that's, I mean, to your point, that's how it always is.
Absolutely.
But this doesn't change
No,
that. It just
no,
maybe
it doesn't
tightens
change
the
it at all.
parameters
No,
around
no,
what you're
the
working
select board, the governing body has a lot of authority on to be able to do that. The other thing I thought you were going to ask, because you gave me the two-sheeter on this, right? That NHMA said, oh, you can always call a special town meeting. So if the original budget fails, now, I've never heard of this. Because
Fremont just did it. So their
did they
collective-
try?
So their collective bargaining agreement failed, and so they held a second school town meeting to try to reopen that question.
So, yeah, and this,
I want to say it's a ballot vote and it's happening like this weekend or something.
I believe what happens is it repeats the process again. I'm pretty, because what I read on this again, and I can see, yeah, the law allows you to have a special, you can have a special meeting to try to do a proposed budget again, saying, please, we need this money, right?
But then
A
they would
proposed
have to
budget.
increase their election.
Well, yes, well, absolutely.
you're
It's
screwed by
not, it's
another
not,
$8,000.
not trivial. It's not trivial because, yeah, you have to have another election. So having the deliberative session, okay, you have to, again, you'd have to go through the process again. You have to have the hearing on the proposed budget again, the whole thing, a new default calculated, then you propose it, the deliberative session, it goes to the ballot again. There's no guarantee it's going to pass, but like it is a possibility. It is a possibility.
Yeah, but then
I
you
don't
gotta
know.
pay for another
I don't think
election.
they had listed any examples of towns that had done it. But I think you're right. I think there was a
Fremont
a
is,
school
I think
one.
it's Fremont's doing it right now.
But for
Their
school, right?
CBA, yeah, for their school.
Yeah,
Their CBA warrant article did not pass. I don't know what happened with the other warrant articles for their school. But they specifically said, we're gonna try this one again. And they just had their public hearing. And I wanna say voting is like this weekend, and because they're SB2, they have there's ballots
Yeah.
I don't know what the process, I don't know how the school
I just-
board
I-
decided that, or.
I just wonder if the SAU is paying for that election, because clearly they just
I don't know.
told you it's gonna cost more for one extra election, so whatever it was, I can't remember what the number was, but
not our
someone's gotta
problem.
pay for
We
that.
don't-
Well,
I was gonna say, I don't think
it's
they're
not
in
our
our
problem.
SAU,
if it's a
so it's
town
not our problem.
specific,
Not our
if it's a
problem.
town, the CBAs are usually town, or at least,
Does Fremont have their own school district, their own SAU, or do they go to somebody else?
I believe they belong to a larger SAU, but the CBAs are usually negotiated at the individual town level,
was
or
gonna
at least
say,
they
I
are
don't
in our SAU.
They did.
So I would
know where they
imagine
went.
it's,
I don't know.
it's just a Fremont specific.
Or could, they
CBA.
maybe they have their own elementary school, maybe it's like Swayze?
But the good thing is that
Yeah,
we
I
don't
think
need to
that's the
deal with
case.
it because we don't have SB2 for local school.
Right.
We don't. So
Yeah,
we wouldn't be in that mode.
well, if it was Swayze, we would be.
No,
No.
it's not SB2. It's
Oh.
town meeting.
Yeah, we
Still,
don't have
for local.
Oh,
on the
SB2,
school side.
oh, school is still, because nobody put an well, I bet next year you'll get that.
Let's hope.
Cross our
Um,
fingers for microphones.
Jed, any questions? Letty, anything else? Anybody here?
I guess I'll ask, I'll ask, you know, to reach out to Laura,
Yeah, I mean,
get clarification on it.
and I'll send you a list of the ones that I really thought that popped to the top, like we talked about. The
Okay.
trash was a real obvious one. Health insurance is another one that came to my mind immediately. Like, again, we have nothing. The voters don't vote anything. It's in our handbook. Our handbook is not a contract. Page 1 or 2 of the employee handbook clearly says this is not a contract. The select board can modify this, whatever. It's just it's not a contract. So I don't know, like, okay, insurance rates go up 10%.
Do you have the Fremont stuff that you can pull back up? What did they put under their insurance section?
I'm not, see what I would have to know.
I'm just curious if they automatically put an
but
increase.
I would have to know where they put
Insurance,
their
what's-
insurance, right?
It says
Because
insurance.
we
not
put
otherwise
insurance
allocated.
under,
Its own
yes.
department.
I saw something in there for insurance, not other allocated.
Well, there's a, where are we? East Highway Airport.
Apparently Fremont has its own elementary and middle school, but then once the kids reach 9th grade, they are tuitioned into either Epping or Sanborn. Where's I didn't know that was like even possible.
Smaller towns do that.
Well, they got 4,800 people, we got 4,700.
So if you look,
Not all.
I was gonna say, we're about the same size.
so if you look, we use account
Small town.
4155, right? We call that benefit health insurance, 4155. If you look in the town of Fremont, there is no, 4155, personal administration,
Oh, and they got 0.
598. It looks like that's probably it, right? That's a lot of money.
It is. a lot.
Again, I could always contact, they've sent me stuff before the chair of the budget
But I
committee.
just
and
look at
Was
the-
this something you were able to pull up online?
This?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was right on their website.
Were we able, can we pull up their previous years of this form?
I would have to find their budget online. Let me look.
Yeah, because I think it's interesting that they got 0 increases and
I don't know if I have-
decreases.
I might have Fremont's town. I think I have Fremont's town report. Let me look.
Because, I mean, health insurance always seems to be going up. And we had, what, 1 year, it was like 15.6%. And I think we had an increase this past year. Did we have an increase?
What
this
was
past
the
year?
number for
Did we have an increase in
personnel
insurance this past year,
administration?
4155.
4155. Can you
Oh,
go back to
sorry.
that?
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, it looks like it did go up from their default budget from last year, but they did have an increase written into the default budget from 2025. Obviously, I don't know what their actual 2025 budget looked like. but this is not the same number, or it looks like you could have a reduction or increase there.
In the,
I'm just
Oh.
looking at their
I'm
2025
sorry,
default
I'm trying to
budget.
see if I can find the Fremont.
Could I ask a question, or just for the list of things to think about? If per the employee handbook, we offer health insurance, if we get a new employee, would
Yep.
that not be included? Like, would that not be?
right, so if they take the family plan or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Would-
that works.
right, like, that would not be, because that's not contractual, approved by the voters?
Good question.
Oh, wait, go, I saw it, personnel, up. Sorry, I'm further away.
Yeah,
Might
but
be easier.
see, this is like 2024. I don't know if I have 2025's Fremont budget. I don't know. I don't have that.
Hmm.
Give me 1 second, I'm gonna find it.
So they had 554,437.
It's just a good question to ask. Again, we could,
And what's their number right up there? It was 554, so they did go up like $40,000
where?
on personal administration from the last one you just.
No, but don't forget, this is 2026, right? So the default budget for 2026 is the 2025 appropriation with changes. And so
Which
This
one were
this
you-
is from their 2025
yeah, you'd have,
budget. I
that's
just
what I'm
found
saying.
it.
It
I'm
is?
just
Okay.
clarifying to him, the number that he saw on the screen was from 2024. I don't have the 20, but.
Oh,
fine.
okay, and we don't know what they
This
voted
is
by.
the amount that was budgeted for 2025 as
This
well.
598,509.
Yep.
So that, which makes sense, right? Because this column may actually come from DRA pre-populated because you have to give them these numbers when you set up your budget. So this first column, and I'm just guessing, I don't know, I've never been in the portal,
Mhm.
but the portal may have this first column completely already filled out. And then you have to tell it a reduction or an increase or a one-time appropriation. And then it does the math to create your default budget. And then any time that you have some change, it's gonna make you put something at the bottom,
To
the
explain
reason.
On the account
Yeah.
why you're doing.
This, again, I'm assuming here, I've never been in the portal, but this is, I would think, how a portal would work.
Well, given that benefits been going up for everybody across the nation, it's probably one of those items that they now have to figure out how to manage.
That's what I think.
There's no way it didn't go up.
Right, and so where do they steal from Peter to pay Paul?
Right.
I mean, if it didn't go up for them, I want to know which insurance they're with.
Well, and the curious part, right, like, so it doesn't
Now,
pass, so next year,
yeah, I
when they
don't-
do their numbers, if they pay $600,000 on insurance, do they have to, next year's default budget, say we spent this much on it, so now that's the new number?
I
or
also,
do they
I mean,
stay-
and we don't really know what's in this 4155. Fremont
Wait.
doesn't have, I'm sorry, Fremont doesn't have a lot of employees, I don't think. I think we
Hold on,
have.
that's a good question, though.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
what you asked, but,
Right?
okay,
You see what I mean?
yes. So
Yeah,
yes, the
no,
question is then,
the-
so even without the insurance, so if we get a default budget and then whatever the select board does to move things around to
Mm.
make it happen, right? The total is still there. So then, to Bob's point, what's the default budget for the next year?
Right, so like if I have, if I have 10% on that
it's
health
whatever
insurance, for
was, it's
example,
whatever was put into the portal on that line. Because when you move things around during the year,
They don't care.
no, because all that's supposed to happen is if you expend the money, like you would over expend one account, right? So your insurance line would show that you went negative by $50,000. I don't know, make up a number. Somewhere else, there has to be a line that you had extra 50,000 left because the bottom you got to be zero, right? Like you can't. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm saying? The select board, you can at any time you can over or under expend lines at your choosing.
But then next year, my health insurance is gonna be even more.
just so you know, they
It compounds.
have to find $56,000.
Yeah.
to make up the difference of health insurance.
And then they still have to find $70,000 to make up for their ambulance service. So they gotta come up with a lot of money. That sucks. How many towns are on SB2?
A lot.
Yeah, it's actually only like 56,000 also for the ambulances that they need to find. So it's not quite 70.
Oh, I'm like,
I shouldn't even
Just
say
so you
these
can
things,
sleep
but
at night.
I'm just worried about like the health insurance and.
I
Yeah,
think it was just,
I don't-
might have been 2 years ago, a supervisor at DRA told me, and he'd been at DRA for a long time, and he said, and he was talking about AI at the time, and I didn't even know what AI was when he was using it to do some investigative work, and because he told me that in his experience with SB2, it had always been running along at about a 10% failure rate on proposed budgets in the state of New Hampshire, was his experience. And he told me that in the last 4 or 5 years, the rate had gone to over 35%. And he goes, there's definitely something going on. And I'm like, yeah, I think I know what it is, but anyways, I'm just saying, like, he definitely was saying, and I know if you look at the local surrounding communities here, I was surprised. I think Kingston failed too. I think my
Yeah, I'd be
friend lives in-
curious how
I
many-
think Kingston and
how
Fremont
successful it
both
was.
failed on their proposed and had to go to default. So
Well, Hampton went to default too, I believe. But then they were all upset about the appraisals.
So, well, that's default. That's the default budget, anyways. And whatever we can put. If you want, I'll put together a list of things that I thought of, and we can just get that.
Yeah, some questions that we can.
Like I said, we
send
have
over to
plenty
Laura.
of time for this, but the sooner we figure it out, the better. Anything else on default budget? Good. Talked enough about that. Bob, we'll go back. Do you want to review? You're here now. We tabled the meeting minutes for May 11th because we didn't have 4 of us here who could vote.
Okay.
And now that you're here, you want to just get that? do that?
I will make a motion to approve the, what was it, May 11th
May 11th,
meetings.
yes.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to accept the May 11th meeting minutes as written. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
And thank you. Okay, so that passes. We got that done. Did you want to give us a budget committee update? Excuse me.
Really? So let's talk about the budget committee.
I'm
Tell
like
me
this
about it.
whole
Let's-
default budget
let's
thing.
go-
I'm like,
I was going to say,
really
let's
kinda
go
like-
back to the default budget because I was looking at their welfare line
Oh,
and it's
do you
zeroed.
want to go back to that?
I just saw their welfare line and I saw it was zeroed. So I don't know how, I mean, they got direct assistance there, but we're required by law to provide welfare. I'm shocked to see they got 0 in there. I mean, legally, we're required.
Yes. But if you don't have any cases right? Like if you didn't have any cases during the year, although, yeah, not funding any money, unless they just say they'll pull it from somewhere. Maybe it's been so low. I don't know. That is weird.
Or if it's like a,
What did we? put
because it was
for
0
law?
in their proposed budget too, so.
Is it?
I'm
They must
assuming
just
maybe
pull it
they must have
somewhere
like a
else.
volunteer administering it, or they pull it
Well,
from, or it's one of those like kind of combined line work.
But see, like for direct assistance, we put $3,000, right? That's to take care of hypothetically
Anything that comes up
anything
because
that
you're
comes up
required.
during the year that the town of Brentwood has to provide welfare support.
Right,
at.
so if we get somebody that calls up and says, hey, I'm renting this house and it's unfit to live in, we have to find them something temporarily, and we're required to pay for that.
Yeah, but it's just their administration line that's 0,
Oh, I
so
thought
it's
they had a
like,
few of them in there now.
I'm just looking.
So they had money in the direct assistance and vendor payments. It's the administration. So it must be whoever's, you know, connecting A to B. So if somebody makes that call and they find them somewhere to go, you know, that middleman person is either being paid in another line or maybe as a volunteer, which great for them.
Yeah, 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 you're right, because the direct assistance line is
Yeah.
funded.
I wonder if that's also to some of the other providers that come in,
They might be.
because that's how we
They might
pay
be putting
ours.
them both together. Like, we have a line separated out for
Yeah.
community assistance. It
Yeah.
doesn't look like they have
Mhm.
that. So they might have it all together. I don't know what vendor payment.
It looks like what ended up in the default budget is the same as the proposed budget, so it's probably all kind of
Commingled.
contractual or, because it's not, is it equal to last year? Sorry, the way they put this on there is you have to scroll all the way to the top to see.
I don't know if I emailed this to you. I'll email this Fremont thing to all of you so you have it.
Yeah, if you, it's the first thing that pops up if you Google it, which is why I'm able to find all their stuff so quickly.
Yeah, right. Yep. And actually, I went to DRA asking them for a blank form. And DRA, the supervisor, responded back going, yeah, I don't have a blank form, but he goes, why don't you just, because it's a portal. He goes, it's not a form. You don't fill it out. You go to the
okay.
portal
And you enter the data,
enter it
the
in.
data entry.
Right. He goes,
Because we all have different numbers and names for our.
right.
Yeah.
And he said, he goes, you can 91A any of the towns around you. I said, well, actually, that's a good idea. I just went and found like Fremont's in 2 seconds. I think I have Nottingham.
So that's something to plan on too, because probably gonna have to have a working session filling this out as the committee, right? To make sure that it's.
Yeah,
done,
and
that everyone,
right now,
of entering the
You're
data?
well,
So you can have
we
whatever committee.
you weren't here. You weren't here.
Thanks a lot.
But
Let me check that off as another thing I have to do.
unless HB 1575 gets signed by the governor, because I think it's passed the House and the Senate. I don't know. At least I don't. So this 1575
Oh, it
makes
has
it.
this, oh, yeah, pass.
See, it says
Look at
Budget
that.
committee
Pass.
determines the default budget.
correct,
Hasn't been signed into law yet.
but I don't believe it's been signed
But
into law
it's
yet.
passed already.
Well, yeah, but again,
Good.
it's not law. I don't believe it's law. I think it has to be signed by the governor or something. I'm not the right person to ask. These things can be tricky. We have time. And like, Bob, I gotta be honest with you, whether it's the select board or the budget committee, we've
I'm
had a really
hoping we
good
would do
working
it together
relationship
anyway, yeah.
anyways. So the numbers, I'm sure, like when we came up with the tax cap numbers, we made sure we were all aligned and signed off. We both voted what the tax cap number was, so that
Okay.
if DRA ever asked us, we go, yeah, well, this is the best numbers we had at the time. We all agreed to it. So there was the select board, the budget committee, and the town administrator all had the same number. I would think this default budget, we would do it the same way, because it is gonna have to stand test at public hearing. People are gonna be able to ask questions, and we have to all be on the same page. Otherwise, it'll look really.
Right.
And again, I don't think it's that complicated, other than there's a few areas where we just have to get legal guidance on this thing, on the word contracts.
Okay. Joy, select board, did you talk about the fire chief coming in?
Nope.
So there's gonna be like a subcommittee created. He came before the board yesterday, and I think that's something that I'd like input from the budget committee, because he's proposing potentially taking on the ambulance service for Fremont, since Raymond is not going to do it going forward. They wanted 70,000 and they only approved the 13,000. So he's proposing that he was going to try to get a contract with Fremont, and we agreed to set up a subcommittee. We voted to set up a subcommittee between budget committee, select board, fire department, and some citizens. Hopefully we can get some citizen engagement to be part of that exploration to see, is it feasible? Is it financially prudent for us to be taking on another town's ambulance service? Because I guess there's some legislation that's out there that municipalities would be required to have fire services or ambulance services.
I'll have to get the RSA because I can't find that.
Okay, so he mentioned that yesterday, so that's part of that exploratory committee that they're looking at.
Yeah.
And
I also wasn't that concerned because what's the saying? An emergency, like panic emergency in Fremont doesn't denote a panic emergency in Brentwood. You know, I mean, not that I'm not sympathetic to, but I don't know.
Epping turned them down.
Like they've had it really good, like for many, many, many years. I mean, 13,000 or whatever it is, $12,000 a year for
ambulance.
EMS service. And then the company says, oh, we can't do it anymore. Oh, by the way, you need $70,000 for us to do it for this final year. We're out of business in 2027. We need $70,000 to do 2026. When they went to their voters, the voters vote no. So now they're scrambling, trying to find 70 grand.
And if
Why does this fall like outside of the normal mutual aid agreements?
Oh, because,
He's-
well,
he's
I'll
trying to pick
try
up-
to answer it to you. You cannot use mutual aid to be like, oh, we're not gonna
primary,
have a fire department.
Gotcha.
So-
Because
It's
none,
supposed to be supplemental.
yes,
I-
it's supposed to be, I help you, you
Yeah.
help me. And
it's
what
not.
the chief
I don't
told
have
me,
anybody. You do
what
it
the
all.
chief
for.
told me is they monitor, like if somebody starts to get a little, hey, I know you're having staffing issues, but you're starting to be a problem, they work it out amongst themselves. I only have experience years ago. Lawrence was having financial issues when I was in Methuen. Like the state almost had to take over and they were laying off firefighters. And suddenly we were getting all these calls for ambulances. And our fire department came and said, listen, you need to the mayor, you guys need to do something. Cause like, we're not, this isn't mutual aid. So that's yeah.
So they had a contract with Raymond to do all their ambulance services for all these years. And then Raymond basically said, we're going to start our own ambulance. We're getting rid of the private ambulance company. We can't be covering you guys unless you want to pay us 70,000. And then they voted no. Our fire chief is talking to them maybe about doing 90,000. My concern was, well, you'd have to go to the voters, and what happens if they vote no, and we agree to basically add the staff and everything else in order to take care of this, and now you guys vote no, now I'm stuck with a bill and a staff that I can't financially support, but I still have to go over there for mutual aid. And then how does that work with agreements and contracts? And there's a lot of things that need to be looked at from a different lens, because
Well,
that could be, I mean, to add, we already found out from the Warren article that they put forward, you add another shift or another person on there with the whole details, that could be 300 some odd $1,000. If you take $90,000 and you're hoping you can bill 200 and some odd $1,000 to substantiate your 300 and some odd $1,000 bill, but what if they vote no? Now I'm stuck with this and I got nothing coming in. So we don't control their votes.
Or I think the vice versa of that, of
If
we sign on this contract saying, yeah, we're gonna do this, they vote yes, they're paying us money, and we can't because we don't have the personnel, and now
Well,
where do you
or
get-
now
make
you
up
go
that
to an
gap?
SB2, and let's say that doesn't get voted in, because now you have to add that, that's a new service. There's a
Yeah.
lot of.
Yeah,
It
moving
needs
parts.
to be, it needs to be examined harder than, can I get permission to go ahead and sign this agreement that we're gonna basically provide them services? No, there's
So-
so many nuances that we have to look at.
I'll just say that I believe it was in April. It was after, I think it was our first meeting. Our committee created a public safety strategic planning sub-team. And when I presented this, and we unanimously voted to do this, it was talking about working with each of the department heads of police, fire, and highway to just put it out there, come up with gather facts options It's not about any sort of advocating for outcomes, just like a kind of like a CIP, only broader, focused on police, fire, highway, right? And so we voted, I put myself on there, you nominate, said that from the select board, Jim
Jim,
Michaud,
yep.
right? The two of us created a summary profile. It's probably been 6 weeks. It has already been, I reviewed it with the police chief, fire chief, and this has been sent out to them. And Friday, we actually I had a meeting, Jim and I were meeting with the fire chief to go over talking about this, okay? Now, on Monday, I heard about this other thing with Fremont. So I went to their meeting last night and just basically said, well, I was curious because I did not know anything about what was going to be presented, or I didn't see much data last night. There was some numbers thrown around. I did share numbers with I worked Monday afternoon and Tuesday during the day on trying to collect data on Fremont and Brentwood Fire, call stats, billing. Anyways, I just made the recommendation. Why don't you just I'll sit down with the fire chief on Friday with Jim. We're meeting with him anyways. Why don't we just pull a bunch of data? I'll work with him and try to put together some numbers, things that he can then go back and give to the select board. And you want to have a subcommittee, that's great. Because this was never intended to be like a subcommittee to make any sort of decisions. It was just about, like I said, we came up with this standard form that we want to go through with each of the department heads and have them fill it out so that we as a town, select board, the budget committee, kind of have a layout, a plan, so that we're on the same page with our department heads of where they see things going, right?
But this would be adding.
Now,
Another
what I
town.
kind of sent the chief today was, like, I know this is a long-term thing, but this Fremont thing popped up, and the chair says he wants to hear something within 45 days.
Well, because he
Why
says he
don't-
has to tell them because they have to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
ready for their budget committee, what they're going to do for their season, to ask what they want.
So I'm meeting with him on Friday. Jim and I are meeting with him on Friday. I have data. I'm gonna try to get this.
Oh. I don't want to touch it too much and then end up. Okay.
There you go, yeah.
So I have data. I'm gonna go over it with the chief, make sure that he's okay with the data. I mean, I have my thoughts, but that's my thoughts, and it's not my purview here to be giving that. I just want to help the chief put together kind of like numbers, because I felt the focus last night was more on, hey, I had this warrant for an extra guy, 300,000. I think I can get the money for the extra guy if we do the Fremont thing, where again, the chair, Bob, and I have also met with, and he brought this up last night, with the county. We met about a month ago, talking to them about similar, like, only kind of in the opposite. Dude, we're providing you a service over here, and the Brentwood taxpayer is funding it, and you're a county, and all of your services that you do are allocated to everyone in the county. And I like the way you do it. You have a really good system. You do equalized valuation. It's very fair. And when people come to me and complain about county, I tell them, well, give me a better way of doing it, because they do it right. I mean, you can complain about what they're spending, fine, but their allocation is a really good system, except on their EMS services. They're, my opinion, taking advantage of the town of Brentwood, because they're not giving us anything towards the wear and tear on the ambulance, that the guys, the time, the this or that. And unfortunately, as even the chief showed, the numbers, the money that you take in on billing doesn't pay for, and don't quote me, I have numbers somewhere, and it'll all be coming out. I have it for the chief, and he has them too. But if you take our total budget divided by our total calls, I believe it's around $1,100 per call. Well, his billing, I think he said, was $298,000 for last year, and we had like whatever 500 something calls. It comes out to be like $400, $430 a call of revenue, and it's because, well, first of all, the Medicare rates are set, insurance rates are set. Every time you send the ambulance out, you don't necessarily collect anything every time because, right, if you're going out and then you don't bring you don't transport the person to the hospital, well, what are you billing them for? Anyway, so it's a complicated thing. I stated last night, we don't expect the fire department to be in the business of making money on ambulance service. But that applies to the town of Brentwood. I'm not interested. Why, let's take care of Brentwood, my opinion. If we're going to take on Fremont, what I said was, and I believe Mr. Kleiman brought this up as well, the law does allow setting up under, I think it's RSA 53A, interoperating, and I believe you can set up a joint fire department. And I mean, I'm intrigued. I would love that. I mean, so on the county side, he and I are meeting with them, trying to either get them to pay us some money, or better yet, where they're a really nice self-contained unit. There are companies out there that will do this because they know they have a pretty good idea of how many calls they get a year. They know what the billing is going to be because you got a lot of people. They're not living in the nursing home if they don't have Medicare. The prison, I believe, has a system of whereby they pay. So anyways, they have a facility where they could park the ambulance. We talked to them about this. I said, why don't you just get an RFP, because then you take care of it. And that cost is then, we pay our little piece of it because we're part of the county, but so doesn't everybody else in the county, right? Like,
Share the wealth.
yeah. And they really were like, I will tell you, they were very receptive to us. They didn't throw us out. They were like, no. They started asking.
The other consideration that we discussed with them is now they're going to have an 80 to 90 bed
Right.
across the street
Rehabs.
at the new center.
I was going to say, what even is going on over there?
People
rehab
going,
center.
trying to get reintegrated into the community. Well, that includes people that might have some addictions and stuff.
Yeah,
No one's going to have a relapse. No one's going to OD.
Have a medical event.
No one's going to
exactly.
have, we got to factor that in. That's going to be you got 80 to 90
Or even-
beds that you're going to have there. That's a huge extra thing that's going to be picked up by us. Can you give me $30,000? Can you give me $40,000 to offset this?
I mean, the thought of doing a regional type fire department, again, even the chief said where he had worked in Florida, across the country, this is done in many places for good reason, because you want to try to allocate your costs and spread out your resources to cover an area, because let's face it, it's an on-call type thing. You're not always going on a call, right? So he just said it isn't something that's done a lot in New Hampshire. Now, there are some places that allow it. Well, maybe if Fremont is in such a hard space, I proposed, I said, well, I know I was told that 5 years ago, I don't know, the chief in Kingston actually approached Brentwood, but at the time we weren't interested. But I'm like, well, if Kingston, Brentwood, and Fremont pool together, but see, when you do that, it's comprehensive. Like, you share resources, your budgets are shared. It's not pay me some money, and then, oh, by the way, I'm carrying all the wear and tear on I think he said the new ambulance we just cost
$486,000.
$500,000.
And it takes 26 months to get it.
Right. So like you kind of pool resources, and I would love to see if the fire chief in Fremont and the fire chief in Kingston and the fire chief in Brentwood want to talk about something like that. I think that would be something really, again, because you look at pooling resources, how can we serve our communities together, yet not make everybody go somehow bankrupt together or something. So,
And I thought, yesterday to make a decision right on the spot, I just thought was too premature. I think you need to explore the options on it.
Before making a decision like this, my opinion, is like, you need to really see numbers and data and facts. Otherwise, I don't know how you make a decision. That's what will be my goal. Is I'm meeting with him on Friday. just to try to, it'll be numbers that he will present to the select board. And then the select board, you can set up a subcommittee if you want.
Yeah,
Because
we
again,
voted
I'm
for a
not, this is
subcommittee.
not a subcommittee.
Yeah.
This was strictly a data collection thing. And I was gonna be making sure it's in the same format and being distributed to select board and budget committee for them to make decisions on. It was never about this. If you look at the original, when we talked about creating this, it has nothing to do with coming up. The subcommittee will gather facts and options. It doesn't advocate for any sort of predetermined outcomes. It will present to, budget committee and obviously to the select board, but it was nothing about making decisions. I think the goal here was just not to be surprised where we have a department head who says, I need something, and it was like, what? We didn't know about that. And anyways.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes, but at least you guys are aware as a budget committee that that's being explored.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
Ched Miller, Dudley Road. Yeah, I think we talked about at town meeting, both Ward and I brought up a collaborative effort like our co-op school, but in the services area of the town. And I think that's the way to go. And, we're already starting to do that in a couple of ways. I mean, that ambulance service that we picked up from Exeter Hospital, Kingston's been around for years, Fremont's been around even more years. And we should be able to see some efficiencies out of that, which I think should go to cost savings, because we're basically spreading the risk out and sharing it between a larger group. But to your point, we don't want to jump into this. This is one big effort. I mean, I see the police chief making major headway into getting back into the shared services business and getting back in good graces on mutual aid. I haven't seen much action out of the fire department at all. And I sensed a real resilience at the town meeting to even the idea of it. I had looked at before I went there, I looked at the website for the fire department, and it has, if you want to apply, click here, and I did. There was nothing there. If you did that over at Fremont, there's a whole list of how you become a member. And I mean, when we first got here, being part of the fire department was being part of the town. Mm-hmm. And I think we've lost that in the process. So I think as we look forward, I think it needs a comprehensive effort that is really, you aren't going to do it in what the person wants, 60 days or something.
Well,
you'd be lucky to get it done in a year.
I was looking at a 90-day,
Yeah.
and they want it sooner, so that's why we were like, can we get some type of response in 45?
I think when anybody comes to me with that type of request in a business setting, the answer is no, and I'll get back to you if you want to work on it. But if you don't want to work on it, have a nice day. And I think they will want to work on it. I think it makes a lot of sense to pull services because they're emergent services. They aren't on a routine basis like a school, and you can really leverage that. But,
well, and I know one of the things that came up last night is the attracting of new talent. The people that want to come work here, they don't get as many calls, so they get kind of bored during the lulls. So he's thinking he can pick up an extra 400 some odd calls a year. It keeps them busier. But we also have to look at the fact that we have to be fiduciary responsibility for Brentwood, not Fremont too, because then you start picking up other towns. Mutual aid, I get, but then when you pick up other towns, you have to be fiduciary responsible for that too. So, and if we sign a contract, we're bound by that. So, and especially now knowing what we got going on potentially with SB2, it needs to be examined hard. It has to have a hard look, and we need
Have fun.
clarity.
Have fun.
I really
I'm
think
just
it's a great
agreeing.
opportunity. I mean, if you think about the school system, when we moved here, Swayze School was just the big high square part and two little classrooms off the side. And, we looked at one point of, do we actually close it down and move everybody into Exeter, and it was more cost efficient, but we wanted our own school, so we paid extra money for it. But I mean, we got a heck of a good school system. I still don't understand why 75% is good. That was like a C when I was in school. But you can explain that to me later. But, you know, both my kids went through it, and they didn't go to private schools until they got to the professional level, and it worked out fantastic.
Well, I know one of the things we did vote at the select board to start a subcommittee for fire department specifically. So if you would like to
Yeah.
participate,
No, I'd be happy to help.
good deal.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to throw your name in the hat, and then we'll pick some citizens too. So
Show me where the hat is.
All right.
I will let
Okay,
Julie
so
know.
enough talk on.
Yeah, there we go.
I just
Enough on
wanted
that.
to, you brought it up as part
Yeah.
of what happened last night. I did wanted to let you know that, I mean, the meeting was already scheduled and we will be meeting on Friday, but the goal will be just to be able to have him have some data. You had asked about numbers
Yep.
last night, and I'll be working on
And we do
that.
have a new treasurer, so she's working out really well. She's doing a really good job of trying to figure out where things are. I know there was a M&T Bank statement that came, nobody knew where that money was from, and then we found out it's actually a library's trust funds that we were like, where's this $30,000 supposed to go? And nobody was an authorized signature, but it's the library's trustees that are the signatures, not us. So we had to figure out how that worked, and we found that out yesterday. So a lot of stuff going on. We're doing interviews right now for town administration. The rec director relocated to Florida, so he's in Florida. So we're interviewing for rec. That's where we're at. So overall view of my stress and my white hair that keeps getting more white.
Well, you have here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's everything on subcommittee updates. The only other thing I was going to say is, like I said, meeting on Friday with that. That's about it. Gabby's next meeting is July. It's on the calendar. She posted it on, I put it on the calendar for the trash. Anything else from any member?
And I wasn't sure if this, we did, when we went to the county and met with them, the county did pay for ALS, what's it, $35,000 or something?
I believe it was, I thought it was 70. There was
They paid for a
definitely
portion of it.
there was definitely an amount that the county agreed to pay Plastow ALS for this. They're on a July cycle as well. So for this coming budget cycle, they are paying them something for that, which again, I think opened their eyes to the fact that, yeah, well, Brentwood's kind of in the same boat here, except that we're not just doing your ALS, we're doing every call, every 911 call that you have over here. And it's, as the chief said last night, the last number I had was 38%. We haven't gotten the numbers yet for 2025, but even he said it was probably at least 30% of the ambulance calls go over there, and they pay us zero. So we'll keep working on that.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? Public, anything else? No? For next meeting, how about we take the month of July? Is there any, I don't really, yeah, my son is getting married in the middle of July, and thank you. My youngest, so I'll have 3 that will be happily married, which is really amazing and a blessing. I don't think, unless there's an urgent need, I don't think, I feel like what I will do in the month of July is start doing the site visits again, right? The walkthroughs type things. We started in August last year, I looked. So
School board's off until after Labor Day.
after Labor Day?
Yep.
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't know, do we want to just pick a day in August in case we wanted to? Or what I could do is just, because the site walks, I thought it went well last year by just saying they weren't like mandatory. It was kind of like, because it's for the department head's benefit, really. So if we could make it, you make it. If you can't, you can't. As long as we have enough of us there that it's, respectful to the department head. And that it worked really well last year doing it that way. Again, I don't have a problem with, we just say, well, we don't set up another meeting until sometime in September.
I think we should just start, pick a date in September and start
Okay.
official season. And then if anything comes up and is needed, we can always call
Yeah,
it in August.
I was gonna say, because my only thing would just be pending what the audit results for 2024 and 2025 look like. I don't know if there would be anything we would need to discuss.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Because it may be just, okay, cool, it's checking out, you finally got it done, but
But we're also gonna have a new person, or maybe no person at that time, so,
yeah.
you gotta, I feel like at this point, it is what it is, what's gonna be done, right? And
Mhm.
that's obviously we're gonna have report, but you have to, even if somebody's gonna be hired, you have to let them to,
Yeah,
And-
have
get,
time to
right,
get,
like
And
kind
if
of
there's-
wrap their
arms
head around what's going on.
even if there was some sort of deficiency that was identified, it's not our purview. I
No.
think it's select board would have to like come up with a process or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't think. I mean, what would be good for us is like, obviously there's things where I was trying to get the revenues for ambulance billing, and I have it for 22, 23, but 24 and 25, I have to say unknown, because, I mean, the chief had a number last night, but it's not, again, I've tried, there's no official way of getting the number, because I was pulling it right off of the audit report, it shows.
I know
Um,
they're trying to finalize the audit. They had 4 questions that they came back to us for, and Julie's been working, trying to get them the information. And they gave us some spreadsheets to help us with the recommendation best practices are for like the impact fees, how to watch those and look at those. And so they've given some spreadsheets, and
just so
we
you
had
know,
to
Bob,
answer those by June 5th.
impact fees, I mean, Linda was here and she did a really good job of presenting.
Okay.
I did have questions, but I'd rather, I mean, I just told her I'll set up a meeting with her
Yeah.
and Julie to go over it. There's I don't think there's really any point in getting into deep details. The goal
Yeah.
is just to get that official report done that we're required to do by law. And then you guys will have a process, so they'll set up. a
Yeah, so the
process.
good thing is they're starting a process, and then
Yeah.
I know Julie started already getting ready for the 25 audit. That's starting the 22nd through the 26th, and she's gonna be here for that. And then we'll at least have templates, fry button pushing, enter the data, put the numbers in, it should fall into a sheet, everyone can follow it, it's pretty bulletproof. And I like the fact that the auditors said that they do 200 and some odd communities. And so they gave us their one that they felt was the best one, and we're gonna try to follow that. So I think that is beneficial for us, and it'll help this board, especially when you guys are looking at that in the fall, to know what we're sitting at. So I would say you guys, I mean, we're not gonna start getting budgets and stuff start coming before us and having those discussions probably till September. So I think
Yeah.
having July and August is probably smart for you guys to
Let's
just
skip it.
chill, relax, because as you know, especially once you're gonna be getting into this whole SB2 thing, you guys are gonna be doing a huge effort this year to get used to what the processes are.
Sure.
September 9th? Dan, is that,
The school board,
is that,
we moved ours from the Monday, the
Yep.
7th, I think it is, to the 8th. Let me just check those dates, to make sure. I'm
okay,
not botching.
so
So we're Tuesday, September 8th is our first meeting.
you're on the 8th? We usually meet on Mondays, is there
The
usual night?
7th is Labor Day.
Yeah, so the 14th?
Yeah.
14th? Go back to Monday, right? Yeah, Monday, 14th? Dan, that okay for you?
Either August 31st or
Yeah, no.
September 14th.
Let's do the 14th.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do the 14th.
Plus, then you'll have an update, the
Yeah.
14th.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So 9/14. And what I'll do is, like I said, I'll come up with like a draft starting in, I think we started last year in August doing the site walks. And, and they're informal, so
Yeah.
if you can make it, you can make it.
And I know they've been kind of just like, oh, we just sort of toured the facilities, but maybe it could be helpful being closer to budget season that
Yeah,
we could
if you
actually talk
want.
about or really focus in on just
Okay.
here's what's relevant for the budget this
There was a
year.
fair amount of variance last time in what each director or
Yeah.
person presented. But now that we're all doing this again together, I feel like templatizing it, to your point, might help clear expectations for the directors. Like, what do I do for this?
Right.
And
Yeah.
for us, we might get more out of it if it's a little bit more targeted and focused.
And
I don't know what that template. looks
besides
like.
library, it'll
There was
be
a
all
lot of
new
good
people.
information. There's a lot of good information that came out in bits and pieces, I don't know what the template looks like, but it would be nice to have it be
Okay.
normed across the board.
I think one of the things that would be helpful, right, if we select board by then knows what that default budget means by contract and all, right, that one of the things we could ask departments to pull together is a list of their actual contracts. Is one of the things that, right, is we're gonna be doing it the first time around, and to understand exactly what goes into default versus not, that would be probably something we can do prior to budgets coming in. So we could actually take care of default before we start looking at anything else.
Yeah, especially with like rec, they have like the lawn care and stuff like that, so how does that work?
So I'll try to create a template that we could give to the department heads, and I'll just route it for comments on it, because I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Last year, like, the library went ahead and like even shared a draft budget that early. Others, like the fire, was like trying to pull together call stats for us because that was what was relevant at the time, right? It was just like there was a lot of variance. I don't know what the template looks like. It's got to be something.
Yeah, and then also to try to share I know I filmed most of them last year, and then trying to edit them into a way that would make sense to share was just somebody would end up having to watch like a 2-hour thing.
Right.
Yeah, so I think having a template, having kind of like high level, like here's what we're looking for, or just kind of information, because they are informal and they don't get a good public turnout, but I do find that they're very helpful just to know
Yeah, I mean,
what's
to me,
actually
it's
going
like
on before you see
their
the
opportunity to
budget.
kind of give us a heads up if there's something major that
Yeah.
they're looking to happen that year, like an addition or
And especially,
something.
like, I know you just mentioned the rec one, and it was helpful to kind of understand like why certain things were prioritized over
Right,
other things
correct.
based on revenue and
Right.
things that maybe aren't apparent just from looking at the budget, because they do have
Right.
that revolving account. So I think, yeah, we should kind of come up with a more standardized thing of what we're looking at and have it be closer to the budget where they've already been putting together their budgets, such as when the library was able to be like, here's what the budget's going to be, even though it's not due for months.
Okay. So you'd rather wait to do the site walks till closer out into, because the budget's it's usually October, November. when
Yeah,
we start doing
I think that could be helpful.
Because then you guys could get a template sheet back from them to then go, it opens up when you're meeting with them to probably have those discussions as you're walking around, like.
And
"Oh, I
already have
see
maybe
here
some
you got a budget for
questions,
this.
yeah.
Explain to me why.
I
Again,
just hope that it doesn't look like we're going over budgets twice. I
True.
think that the fear also was the couple of years, and that's why it was set as an informal, because we didn't want to put pressure on people, right? And it could have been as simple as just meeting and chatting,
Yeah, the template could even be as simple as like, start with highlights, like start with lows,
Yeah.
like what are things that you're proud about, whatever, and then it could be like expected major changes and why, rationale.
Yeah.
I think it's more like a student review at elementary school,
It doesn't have to
when
be
you
a
don't have A,
detailed-
B, or C, you just have, hey, we feel great about our performances here, or we are struggling, we don't have enough people, or trucks are broken, whatever, like just.
Pros
kind
and
of a-
cons.
Right, more than, because otherwise, if we concentrate on numbers, as much as we want to concentrate on numbers, that's a different process, and I feel like it's gonna feel as if we are,
Attacking.
yeah,
right.
And I that's kind of the, because it was my first time last year, and that kind of was the impression that I got, was that it was done earlier, and wasn't really focused on what is your number gonna be. It was more just,
to get to know the departments.
and their opportunity to kind of share, if there's like, yeah, this is what we're doing, and this is something that we're gonna be asking for or something, and this is why, or what, it was their opportunity to kind of get you a heads up of that something was gonna be coming. That was kind of the impression I got.
Or to point out issues, or just say everything is awesome. But I feel like building that relationship is more important than, because by the time that we get into numbers, everything is, and then, you sit and you do some of the budgets at 8 o'clock on a Monday,
And last year,
not as friendly as.
I asked for job descriptions, and I know that created kind of like they hadn't been asked for that before, and it was immediately, well, why are you asking for this? And so, well, because if we don't know what people are doing, how do we like? It just seemed to me obvious that if you have these positions to have job descriptions, but we got most of the job descriptions back. And so I think most of them, won't be needing to do that anymore. We have the job descriptions already done. If there's new ones that are going to be in the town office somewhere, well, I would leave it up to the select board. You guys can get job descriptions. I don't think we need to be asking for that again. We did that last year and we got them. But I think I can at least, I like the approach of, I want to keep it informal, like you said. We don't want to have, I remember one of them saying like, oh God, no, it means I have to do a budget thing to the select board, I got to do a budget thing to the budget committee, and then I got to do another budget, an original one with the budget committee. I'm like, oh. And if they really didn't want to do it, it's for their benefit. If they said, no, I really don't have any changes coming, I don't need to do it, I mean, that's fine too.
Well, then you just gotta be scared about the default budget.
Yeah, but the default budget isn't up to the department head.
It's up to whatever the numbers
It's
were
not
from
the
before,
department
yeah.
head who decides it. The law decides it. It's
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
was in the budget from
From
the
this
year
past year,
before,
yeah.
and right,
It
the
is
law
what
just
it
tells
is.
you
Yep.
it is what it is, right?
Yep.
But yes, that if they say, oh, by the way, we didn't hire, this line has 3 people. I know I only have 2, but this line has 3 people. Yeah, well, it stays 3 people going forward. But if he goes, this line was 3 people, but we cut somebody, right? Well, it gets cut by 1. If you eliminated a position during the year, it goes down. So that would be important. That would be important. Whoever brought up default budget, that you're right. That is kind of maybe something to put on this template to say, like, just so you know, if you have these kind of changes, you'll need to let us know. We could kind of document that for budget committee and select board for when the default budget's going to be created. To at least have them thinking along that line.
Yeah, maybe it's a little too directional in the sense that we're educating them a bit on implications of SB2.
Right.
And what that means for a department head in Brentwood. Give them an opportunity to digest that.
Yeah.
Ahead of the
Okay.
submitting of a budget.
I think the biggest question, at least for me, would be to have clear guidance for ourselves on what, how our resources are spread, meaning that which resources are required by law, which resources are required by contracts that have been previously appropriately approved by the legislative body, right? And which resources might have a contract, but it might not be required by law or has been approved by the legislative body, and in which case that contract is in jeopardy of being terminated.
Okay.
And I think once we know that,
Then you guys should be able to clear sailing.
or you guys, or
Or-
all of us.
Yeah. Hopefully we're working collectively together. That's my goal, is
But
to have it as a team, but
I think it's going to be just easier because then we can, work with accounting, work with departments, work, right, and figure it out. That's the biggest question in my head, because, there are certain things that we are, like, again, law is a big, like, sharing of resources across towns or whatever, and that's also, right? Is it required by law or is it contractual?
Right. Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
So those are the questions from this discussion.
Yeah. So I'll put together kind of like a little template, just so, because that'll be really beneficial for them too. So they don't have to like worry about, well, what are they looking for?
Mhm.
We kind of gave them something last year, but this will be a little, I think, again, last year it was the job descriptions I know was a big thing, but we won't need that this year. But I'll add something in there about the default budget and see if we can get it focused. But I'll try to get it scheduled around the same time, do it the same way we did it last year. Is that what I'm hearing, the will of the board, what you want to do?
Sounds good.
Okay, all right. And we picked 9/14 at 6 PM, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
And I think if possible, maybe a little heads up between the boards with regards to when select board gonna have that information, just because I don't necessarily read all the agendas of select board. But if you give
I
heads
will.
up to Jim and.
Yeah, I'll
Jim
give
could
him a
share
heads
with
up
the
and then he can
board
share it, yeah.
That there's gonna be a meeting or,
Okay,
at least people will tune in or
okay.
maybe come in.
Yeah, because not
This is
everyone
really
wants to
fun,
sit
right?
and listen to a 3-hour meeting to figure out, where did they talk about that? I get it.
Anything else?
That's it.
I have a motion to adjourn by me.
Second. Actually, I usually say it's non-negotiable. All,
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, I was wondering who those super cool glasses are. Wasn't sure.
Oh, wait.